The other day, an attorney asked me, what is the criteria that we use to determine whether or not you may have a valid basis for a case, or whether or not we'd be interested in taking on a particular medical malpractice case? You want to know what I said? Come join me on this walk through the neighborhood as I share with you the answer to that question. Hi, I'm Gerry Oginski. I'm a New York medical malpractice and personal injury attorney. It's a gorgeous day today here in Great Neck. It's very sunny, which is why I'm wearing my sunglasses. Now, the other day I gave a lecture to about 100 attorneys at the New York City Bar Association about medical malpractice. And when I was done talking, a gentleman came up to me, another attorney, and said, listen, I understand what you're saying, but what's the criteria that you actually use in order to determine whether somebody has a valid basis for a case and whether you will accept that case? I said, let me share with you the answer to that question. First, in order to determine whether or not you have a valid basis for a case, we have to look and see what was done wrong, what was careless, what was negligent, because negligence is nothing more than carelessness. Professional negligence is nothing more than carelessness by a doctor. If I were to ask most injured patients what they think was done wrong to cause them harm and injury, most of the time they won't be able to give me a specific answer. Now, contrast that to a car accident. You're a passenger in a car, you get hit by a car. If I were to ask you, hey, how did the accident happen? You're going to know precisely, most of the time, how the accident happened, right? Oh, the other driver was careless. The other driver went through a red light. The other driver went through a stop sign. You're going to have some sense and some idea of what actually occurred. If I were to ask most injured patients why they think something was done wrong, they're not going to know the precise answer. All they know is, listen, I went in pretty fine, but now I came out with all of these complications and all of these problems. So what does that mean? It means that because most people are not familiar with the mechanism of what actually occurred, now we have to have a medical expert review and evaluate the injured patient's medical records to determine exactly what was done wrong and why. That's critical. In fact, in New York, we are required to have a medical expert confirm that there was wrongdoing, which means that a doctor or hospital staff violated the basic standards of medical care. That is a requirement. If our medical expert determines that no, nothing was done wrong, guess what? That ends the evaluation and we can't go any further. If our medical expert does not give us liability, which means that there was carelessness and wrongdoing, we can't do anything. And we'll have to tell you, I'm sorry, we can't help you. Our expert does not confirm that you have a valid basis for a case. So let's assume just the opposite. Let's assume that our expert does say, yes, there was carelessness here. There was professional negligence. There was a violation from the basic standard of medical care. So what's next? What's next is that we have to show that that wrongdoing was a cause of your injury. That's called causation. That's the legal term. There has to be proximate cause, which means there has to be a link between the doctor's carelessness and your injury. It's like a bridge. There must be a connecting link between those two things. If there isn't, guess what? Then there's no case, and the expert will not be able to confirm that you have a valid basis for a case. So let's assume, for the purposes of this discussion, that yes, the expert has confirmed that the doctor was careless and that his carelessness was a cause of your injury. You should know it doesn't have to be the cause. It only has to be a cause. Very, very important. All right, so now we have what's known as liability. Now we have what's known as causation. What's the next thing? The next thing our expert has to look at is your injury. Is your injury significant? Is it permanent? Is it disabling? How has it affected you on a daily basis? What things are you no longer able to do that you used to be able to do? That's going to be critical. Because if you have minor injuries, if you have injuries that have dissipated and gone away, that means it's great for you, bad for a case. We need to show that there are substantial injuries, substantial damages. And only then, if our expert confirms all of those things, only then can we come back to you and tell you, listen, our expert does confirm you have a valid basis for a case. Let's move forward now. That's the criteria that we have to use in order to determine whether or not you have a valid basis for a case. Just because you have a valid basis for a case and now a medical expert has confirmed you have a good case does not necessarily mean that the attorney and the law firm that you went to will take you on as a client. And you're saying, wait a second, what are you talking about? I spent so much time and effort and energy to go ahead and do my research. This is the law firm for me. This is the law firm that I want. What do you mean they won't take me on as a client, or they may not take me on? You want to know why? It's because not every case is right for every attorney. Simply because you may have a valid basis for a case, there could be many different reasons why an attorney would not choose to take you on as a client, even though they have a medical expert who now confirms that yes, you do have a valid basis for a case. So why do I share this quick information with you? I share it with you just to give you a sense of what really happens in these cases involving medical malpractice here in New York. You know, I realize you're likely watching this video because you wanted to join me on this walk through the neighborhood. No, I realize you likely have questions or concerns about your own matter. Well, if your matter did happen here in New York, but you have not yet started a lawsuit because you still have questions that need to be answered, what I invite you to do is pick up the phone and call me. You know, I answer questions like yours every single day, and I'd love to talk to you. You can reach me at 516-487-8207 or by email at Gerry, Gerry, at Oginski-law.com. That's it for today's video. I'm Gerry Oginski. Have a fantastic day.